Most of us know what it's like to face a heavy burden. Maybe you're managing an invisible health condition, fighting a massive bureaucracy just to get paid fairly, or doing everything in your power to protect the people you love. Long before she became a legendary historical figure, Harriet Tubman was an ordinary girl named Minty, and she faced the absolute most extreme versions of those exact same struggles. Born into a brutal system where human beings were treated like legal property, her childhood was a nightmare. By the age of 7, she was forced to work in freezing marshlands, and she had to watch, completely powerless, as 3 of her older sisters were sold away, torn from their family forever. That feeling of absolute helplessness as a child forged a lifelong, unbreakable resolve. She decided she would never lose her family again. Then, at age 13, her physical reality changed forever. While blocking a doorway to help an enslaved man escape an angry overseer, the overseer hurled a heavy 2-pound metal weight. It struck Harriet in the head, crushing a portion of her skull. She miraculously survived, but she was left with severe post-traumatic narcolepsy. For the rest of her life, without any warning, she would suddenly drop into a deep sleep that no one could wake her from. In an environment where pausing to rest meant immediate physical punishment, this condition was terrifying, but Harriet reframed it. She experienced highly vivid dreams during these trances and interpreted them as direct protective warnings from God. To the people she eventually led, these episodes were seen as signs of divine protection. This belief gave her followers the confidence that she was being guided by a higher power, making them willing to follow her through the most dangerous territory. In 1849, relying entirely on the North Star and her deep knowledge of the local wetlands, she navigated 90 miles of treacherous terrain to reach Pennsylvania and secure her freedom. But she wouldn't stay safe while her family suffered. She began a series of high-stakes rescue missions, willfully returning to slave territory 13 times, even with massive bounties on her head. Her methods were highly calculated. She consistently launched escapes on Saturday nights, knowing local newspapers couldn't print runaway notices until Monday morning. And to ensure terrified passengers didn't panic and give away the group's position, she legally carried a loaded revolver to ensure everyone stayed on mission. This map shows the scale of her success. She personally escorted roughly 70 people to freedom and provided the exact intelligence needed for 70 more to escape on their own. She famously noted that she never lost a single passenger. She didn't rely on luck. She survived by taking the brutal manual labor of her childhood, wading through freezing rivers and navigating deep woods, and using it as a masterful tool for geographic evasion. When the American Civil War erupted, Harriet's private fight against slavery moved onto a national battlefield. She officially joined the Union Army. Taking her Underground Railroad experience behind enemy lines, she built a highly sophisticated covert spy ring. She recruited and managed a team of local scouts to map out Confederate troop movements and locate hidden underwater explosives in the rivers. In June 1863, all that gathered intelligence culminated in the Combahee River Raid. Harriet became the first woman in United States history to plan and command an armed military assault. Standing at the front lines, she safely guided 3 Union gunboats through treacherous Confederate minefields. In a single night, the operation destroyed vital supply depots and immediately freed over 700 enslaved people. The very same tracking skills she used to evade slave catchers became the exact tactical intelligence the Union needed to cripple the Confederate war machine from the inside. You might expect a military hero to return home to financial security. Instead, Harriet returned in deep poverty, forced to fight a grueling 34-year legal battle against the federal government just to get her veterans pension. This chart compares what a standard Union scout was paid versus what Harriet actually received. The government ignored her individual military service for decades, eventually granting her just $8 a month, not for her own work, but because she was the widow of another veteran. And her fight for economic independence met violent resistance. When she tried to build a farming business to support herself, local racists deliberately poisoned her entire herd of 40 pigs in a single night to destroy her income. The Civil War was over, and she was legally free, but systemic economic obstacles forced her to fight an entirely new kind of war, one for basic survival and the right to own land. But Harriet refused to be defeated. Through sheer persistence and careful savings, she eventually acquired over 30 acres of real estate in Auburn, New York, completely debt-free. As she secured her own property, her advocacy expanded. She spent her later years touring the country alongside figures like Susan B. Anthony, fighting for a woman's right to vote. She believed true freedom had to belong to everyone. She didn't buy land to live in isolated luxury. She used her property to establish a dedicated nursing home, providing food, medical care, and shelter to elderly Black Americans who had been discarded by the economy. In her final years, Harriet lived out her days as a patient inside the very home she had fought so hard to build for her community. Harriet Tubman survived a childhood designed to break her, then used the survival skills she learned in those marshes to dismantle the system itself. She proved that the hardest obstacles don't have to be the end of a story. They can become the exact tools used to build a way out for everyone else.